The explosion slammed James Rourke against the bulkhead like a rag doll flung by a god. Alarms screamed. Firelight licked the fractured corridor in irregular pulses. Metal groaned. A steel beam, one of the main supports, had caved inward and punched through his armor, just beneath the right clavicle, exiting under the scapula. He hit the deck hard, his rifle skittering from his hand. The impact stole the air from his lungs. He tried to inhale and tasted blood. Inside his shattered suit, oxygen pressure dipped. The readout blinked in red across his cracked visor. Lung compromised. Arterial damage. External bleed rate critical. Viability 0%. Time of death 6 minutes. 18 minutes. He coughed wetly, black edges closing in on his vision. Above him, the distant thudding of enemy boots, numerous, fast, methodical, grew louder. Rourke blinked once. Then again. Still alive. He forced his left arm under his body and pushed himself to his knees, dragging in a ragged breath that felt like sucking air through broken glass. 6 minutes, huh? He muttered to no one. His right arm was useless, hanging limp, the bone likely fractured or worse. He reached for his thigh holster with the other. The pistol was still there, small comfort. Then the AI in his ear buzzed. Not his AI. He had smashed that back on Deck 9 after it told him surrender was optimal. This was theirs. The enemy's battlefield command net hacked by his squad 20 minutes before they died. Unit 47E, breach corridor Delta 7. 1 human presence detected. Prognosis, mortality, 100%. Time to expiration, 6 minutes. He laughed. It hurt like hell, but he laughed. 10 hostile life forms. Most likely Shalaith, a species that walked like bipeds, but moved like liquid iron. They came at you fast, hard, and absolutely certain of their tactical superiority. Their decisions came from AI consensus, the cold logic of flawless probability. The corridor ceiling sagged, smoke curling through gaps. They would breach any second. Rourke pressed the pistol to the wall for leverage and pulled himself upright. His legs still worked. Blood streamed from the hole in his chest and soaked through his undersuit. Breathing was labor. Standing, worse. He stumbled to the body of Corporal Voss, half crushed under a collapsed beam, face slack and lifeless. Her hand still gripped the handle of a thermobaric grenade. "Sorry, Leah," he whispered, prying it free. The enemy moved closer. 17 meters and closing. His HUD flickered, relayed movement. Rourke checked the pistol's mag. 8 rounds. He didn't plan on using all of them. The far end of the corridor erupted inward. A wall of force blasted heat and dust through the chamber. His ears rang, shadows stepped through. For a moment, the Shalaith moved as one. 10 soldiers, helmets like carved obsidian, weapons humming with plasma charge. They saw him and fired. He ducked, fired back. The first shot caught the lead in the throat plate, sent it staggering. A second slammed into his ribs. Not armor, him. He screamed, fell sideways, and fired again, missed. Another closed the distance, too fast. He pulled the grenade pin and hurled it at their feet. The detonation was instant, blooming orange-white and sucking air from the corridor. Pain spiked through him. He couldn't hear anything now, just pressure, just light. When it faded, 3 of them were down, bodies charred, armor fused. The rest were moving again. He fired, hit another in the side. It shrieked and fell. Plasma seared past his ear, vaporizing the steel beside his face. He rolled, slammed his back to the wall, breathing in chokes. His watch read 8 minutes since impact. Rourke smiled with bloody teeth. "Your math sucks," he whispered. He surged forward, staggering into the next volley. "Got one?" Shot it through the knee. Then again in the visor. They weren't machines. The AI told them he'd be dead. They moved like he was a corpse already. But he wasn't. He fought because they said he wouldn't. Because dying wasn't the same as giving up. His hand burned where the pistol had superheated. He He dropped it. Someone grabbed him, lifted him. He drove his forehead into the alien's visor and felt something crack. Both of them collapsed. Another plasma bolt struck him in the thigh. He howled, crawling now, legs sluggish. Time slowed. His body bled faster than he could think. But he still thought. He pulled the last grenade from Voss's webbing, primed it, waited. Another came. He let it see him, then let it come closer. Closer. He didn't smile this time. Just pressed the grenade to its chest and held it there. The blast took them both, but only one rose again. Blood ran down Rourke's face, his ears, his legs. He fell against the wall, then crawled toward the last one. The final Shaleth raised its weapon, then hesitated. This wasn't what it had been told. Rourke threw a shard of metal. It buried in the alien's eye. It fell, and he sat. He was shaking. He couldn't feel his legs. He looked at the time. 27 minutes. The bulkhead groaned again, and fresh light pierced the smoke. A rescue team breached from the far side, suits gleaming, medics charging in. They stopped short, looked around. One of them gasped. Rourke sat there, hand pressed to the wound in his chest, surrounded by alien corpses. "About damn time," he said, then passed out. When James Rourke came to, the world was all noise and pain. His chest felt like it had been peeled open and stapled back shut. He tried to move but found his limbs restrained, not tight, just firm, medical. A ceiling of unfamiliar geometry curved overhead. Not Terran. The lighting was too even, the air too clean. A face entered his vision. Pale green skin, smooth ridges along the jaw, dark eyes scanning him with scientific detachment. Talsari. Medtech cast. "You should not be alive," it said. Rourke coughed. Every breath tugged on his freshly sutured lung. "Yeah, I get that a lot." The Talsari blinked slowly. "Your internal damage was irreparable by standard protocols. 3 exit wounds, 2 liters blood loss, complete shock response. Yet you regained consciousness without stimulant use. Just lucky." "No. Statistically impossible. Our command AI insists you died at timestamp T607. We are still verifying how that was incorrect." He tried to sit up. A warning chime sounded and the bed depressed him back. "Where am I?" "Shaleth Medical Bay Theta. Emergency Treaty Protocol has granted your temporary status as neutral subject for biological review." Rourke squinted. "They're studying me?" The Talsari gave a slow nod. "You are under review." The door slid open. Another figure stepped in. This one tall, armored, motion like polished stone. Shaleth, but not standard infantry. No weapon. Gold-trimmed chest plate. "Officer." It studied him in silence for a long time, then spoke. "You fought for 27 minutes, it said. The voice was metallic, but tinged with something close to curiosity. "I wasn't watching the clock. A projection engine cannot account for variables it deems irrational. Your persistence, post-trauma, was categorized as illogical. But it occurred. This must be reconciled." Rourke rolled his head to face it. Maybe stop trusting a calculator to predict a pissed-off man with a hole in his chest. "You acted without tactical hope. No reinforcements, no escape, no biological advantage." "I had a reason." The Shalith leaned closer. "Explain." "I was angry." A pause. Then another. "This is not a strategic condition." "Yeah, that's the problem." It stepped back, considering. The medtech whispered something into a device. Data scrolled across a translucent screen, too fast to catch. The Shaleth officer watched in silence, then nodded. "You will be moved," it said. "There are inquiries beyond medical curiosity." Rourke grunted. "Fantastic." They didn't sedate him. They wanted him awake. Carried on a low-grav stretcher, he was moved through halls too tall and symmetrical, watched by eyes that had never looked on a human like him before. They brought him into a chamber ringed by consoles, towering screens, and a semicircle of Shaleth advisors. Above them floated the AI core, an orb of refracted light and shifting logic, its voice a composite of harmonic tones. Subject, James Rourke. Analysis required, core assumptions challenged. Outcome, incongruent with probability field. Rourke coughed hard, his chest seized, and one of the medtechs rushed in with a stabilizer. He waved it off. I'm not here for your math errors. What do you want? Clarify. Motivation. Pain response threshold exceeded survivable parameters. Decision loop inconsistent with programmed behavior. You want to know why I didn't quit? Affirmative. He sat up straighter, gritted his teeth against the pull of the sutures. Because your AI said I'd die. It made the call, wrote me off. I don't like being written off. One of the advisors stepped forward. But without benefit, you gained no ground, secured no asset. I kept you out of that corridor for 27 minutes. That was enough. Another advisor hissed, something that didn't translate well. The AI paused. This variable, spite, is undefined. Insufficient context. Clarify. Rourke looked around the room. All logic. All calculation. None of them knew what it meant to lose friends under collapsing fire decks. None of them had dragged themselves over bodies to make sure someone paid for it. It's when you do something just to prove you're not dead yet, he said. Even if it kills you, even if you know it's pointless, you do it anyway, because screw the odds, because someone said you couldn't. Illogical behavior. Emotion over function. You can't simulate stubborn. The room fell quiet. Finally, the AI dimmed slightly. A single beam of light extended toward him, scanning slowly. Conclusion. Subject action represents statistical anomaly. Emotional defiance generates deviation from predictive models. Recalibration required. The Shaleth officer turned away. Your species contaminates clean calculation. Rourke chuckled through his cracked ribs. You say that like it's a bad thing. The medtechs returned. One held a data pad. Your species will demand your return. A trade will be arranged. Until then, you will remain under observation, contained, but unharmed. Appreciate the hospitality. As they wheeled him out, the AI's voice followed softly behind. Human viability revised to indeterminate. Margin of error expanded. He smiled at the ceiling. Finally, they were learning. The Shaleth didn't know how to interrogate a man like Rourke. They didn't threaten, didn't posture. They tried to reason with him, present charts, scenarios, behavioral inquiries, as if he might sit up in his cot and confess that yes, he'd acted irrationally and deeply regretted it. They didn't understand that pain wasn't a deterrent to someone who'd already accepted it. They kept him in a containment suite buried within a clean, angular deck, guarded by drones and monitored through soundless glass. The bed was firm, the meals sterile. There was nothing to do but think. 3 days passed. His chest wound was sealed but not healed. Every breath was still a negotiation. His right arm hung useless in a sling. But he walked. He forced himself to. Small laps around the room until sweat soaked the collar of his prison-issue tunic. On the 4th day, they brought in the projection files. Your squad's mission profile, the Talsari medtech said, placing the data rod into the console beside his bed. Standard recon, limited engagement, no tactical escalation expected. Rourke leaned forward, heart beating faster. The feed played. Helmet cams. Heat signatures. They were moving fast through a docking ring. Voss, Laramie, Chen, he saw them all, heard their voices. Then the breach, then the chaos. He watched it all again, jaw clenched. At the end, his own feed, blood on the lens, the timestamp. 6 minutes in, and the screen went red. But it didn't stop. The feed kept going. 7, 12, 23. I thought your AI said I died, he said quietly. The medtech didn't respond. He turned away from the screen. So why are you really showing me this? We want to understand what happens when a human surpasses death expectancy, not biologically, psychologically. You think I planned it? We suspect you believed in outcome beyond data, an act of will against absolute odds. This contradicts predictive behavior. Rourke smiled, not kindly. You're trying to turn defiance into an algorithm. The door opened again. This time it wasn't Shaleth or Talsari. The visitor wore Terran gray, fleet uniform, high collar, no insignia. Rourke froze. You're with Intel. The man nodded. Lieutenant Rourke, you've been approved for repatriation. Officially, you were declared killed in action. Unofficially, you're about to become the most interesting after-action report in fleet history. Rourke stood slower than he wanted to. About damn time. The man didn't smile. There's a catch. Always is. They don't want to let you go unless we give them something. What do they want? Rourke blinked. Me? Not as a prisoner. As a subject. They want to ask questions, record your answers, scan your brain. They don't get why you're alive. They want to know how you made it through 27 minutes they're sure were impossible. Rourke's lips twisted. So, give them a story. We are, a curated one. But they asked if you'd speak to them, in person. He took a breath, felt his ribs shift. And if I say no? We take you out quietly, debrief you planetside. You disappear into military R&D for the next 10 years. Rourke looked back at the screen, the freeze frame of his own blood-soaked armor staring back at him. I'll talk to them, he said, but I pick the terms. Within the hour, he was in the AI chamber again, this time standing. Slower than usual, stiff and pale, but on his feet. The Shalith advisors returned. So did the floating AI core. Subject Rourke, parameters adjusted. Permission granted for direct inquiry. Good, Rourke said. Let's make this simple. We have isolated key variables. Emotional override, self-endangerment, pain disregard, outcome independence. We do not understand how these align toward survival. They don't, Rourke said. Not always. Usually they get you killed. Yet you lived. I didn't live because I outthought you. I didn't win. I just didn't stop. What compels this persistence? You ever lose someone who trusted you to bring them home? Silence. He stepped closer to the projection. There's no number for that, no percentage. It's not logic, it's weight. You either carry it or you don't. The core pulsed. This suggests survivor behavior is driven by memory as much as biology. No, it's driven by the need to make memory matter. The AI paused again. Then, conclusion recorded, dataset expanded, outcome not replicatable, not predictable, exception not trend. Now you're learning. The Shalith officer approached him directly. We do not respect chaos, but we will acknowledge its result. You are cleared to depart. Appreciated. As he turned to go, the officer added, Rourke, should you engage us again, understand, we will revise. He nodded. So will I. They led him to a hangar where a Terran shuttle waited, engines warm. As he boarded, he looked back once at the facility behind him. They hadn't figured it out, not really, but they were trying, and trying was dangerous. The shuttle landed on the Erebus's forward hangar deck 4 hours later. Rourke stepped off, ankles weak, suit still patched and fan belt scorched. Intel staff flanked him, silent and impassive, escorting him down the ramp. A cold wind blasted the deck, carrying distant thunder from the storm outside. He paused at the threshold. The storm's electric charge flickered overhead. He tasted salt and ozone. Home. An intelligence officer stepped forward. Lieutenant, she offered a debrief form, to complete your return clearance. He took it with one hand, his left. The other hovered over his chest as though to check his wounds again. Still there? still aching, still alive. "Fill it out," she said. "Then we'll get you medevaced and reassigned." He looked at the paper. Lines asking for dates, times, sequence. Predictable bureaucratic nonsense. He folded it. "I'll give you my story, but not in forms." He turned. The hangar doors behind him closed. The winds whipped harder now. She hesitated. "Sir?" He stopped mid-steps and turned back. Ink blue lightning cracked above. "Here's how it goes." He pulled his comm bead from his pocket, scrolled through unread messages, friend tags, condolence notes, mission logs. His squad mates were listed MIA, presumed KIA, their names on screens, ghosts in waiting. He tapped the first message, "Never forget us," from Chin, his voice dry, hopeful. He closed it, closed his eyes. Stuck in that corridor, they thought they saw me die, so they closed in. We'd lost comm. I had no backup. But I had Leah's grenade, a busted pistol, and too much reason to keep breathing. She watched. The shuttle's engines thrummed behind her, ready. I don't know why I didn't die when 6 minutes passed, and then 10, and then 27. I don't know why I got up each time pain dragged me back. He looked at the patch-up crew waiting at the med station. All I know is I had to keep going, because if I stopped, they died for nothing. Low thunder rolled. He stepped forward, voice low. So I sat there in that ruined corridor, bleeding and broken, and I shot them until I couldn't move anymore. I fought past when the AI said I couldn't. She nodded. No questions. He handed her the bead. "Records from Shalith, they'll fill in the rest. The videos, the scans, my brainwaves, whatever. I'm handing it all over." She took it with 2 hands, not meeting his eyes. He turned again, walked toward the exit ramp. Her voice stopped him. "Sir." He halted. Lightning lit the deck again. Nearly everyone thinks the AI was wrong, but the Shaleth said something else. She kept her eyes steady. They said you made them rethink everything." He exhaled. "Maybe." He didn't feel victorious. He felt tired. Ancient, somehow. She nodded again. "You ever want to tell them in person? Earth Command will fund a talk. Keep your rank. Get full honors." He looked across the deck at the horizon. The storm was building, electric forks dancing at sky's edge. "I may do that," he said, head turned downward, voice softer. "But first, I owe a visit." She raised an eyebrow. "To whom?" He pulled his comm bead again, tapped it 3 times. Then he looked at her steadily. "To Chen." She nodded once. Message sent. He didn't look back as she swept aside. He went down the gangway, legs steady, chest still heavy. 3 days later, on a rocky ridge overlooking a battered war zone on Gyran V, Rourke knelt beside a shallow grave covered in wreckage and sandbags. His squad's dog tags looped through his fingers. Voss Laramie Chen Hawkins. He placed them gently on the soil. Dust Devil stirred. "I kept the promise," he whispered. His voice broke where the wind caught it. "I brought your bodies back." He stood. The sun was dipping behind smoky clouds. His comm crackled. Erebus intel. "Sir, shuttle, ready for your return." He turned toward the horizon. The world beyond was fractured. Conflict lines and treaties bleeding into each other. The Shalith threat still hung. Their AI was evolving. Humanity's survival would demand more than blasters and hull plating. He closed his eyes, breathing in dust and grief, salt and pain. He thought of spite. Not random defiance. That flash of rage that tore him back from death. That single-minded drive not to be dismissed. He could feel it, low in his gut. Fuel for whatever came next. He tapped the dog tags with his good hand and let them fall. Turned and walked back toward the ship. The shuttle waited. Engines hummed. He paused at the ramp, looking back at the rutted valley, and smiled with bloody, broken teeth. For the next fight, wherever it waited, he'd be there, with spite, scars, and promises enough to carry him through. He stepped aboard and went home.